Dreams come in all forms. Some are nightmares. Some are sweet and comforting. And some give us gentle nudges, whether from our own consciences or from some other source. This week and last, we've seen a number of different dreams that have come to some of the major figures in the Bible. We've heard Jacob's dream as he fled the wrath of his brother Esau, and he sees a ladder to heaven, and God reiterates to him the covenant he had made with Abraham. We've seen his son Joseph's amazing ability to interpret the dreams of others. And yesterday we heard how God appeared in a dream to Solomon and granted him wisdom. Today we move from ancient Israel to a dream that came to a simple man, a carpenter perhaps, who had a bit of a moral quandary facing him. The dream gave him the answer he needed to solve his problem. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Thursday, October 26th, 2023. We tell this story every Christmas, but most of us don't remember all the little details. One of those little details appears early in the Gospel of Matthew. A man faces a predicament. In some ways, it's not so different from the predicament faced all the time around the world every day. But depending on where and when you live, it can either be a garden variety dilemma or a life and death choice. The man was Joseph, and his bride-to-be turned up pregnant. At the time he lived, women in her position could be stoned to death for this. So his predicament was real, and the choice he would make had major consequences. Only he didn't know just how consequential those choices would be. Here's the story as Matthew tells it. You'll instantly recognize it, but pay close attention to the dream sequence in this story. Now the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet, "Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel," which means God is with us. We remember the part about the angel of the Lord appearing to Joseph. We hear it every year. But we forget the part about it being in a dream. Now, if we look at all the dreams in the Bible, many, if not most, are false visions. But from time to time, God or one of God's servants, usually an angel, appears in a dream to deliver a message. That's what we have here, and a timely message it was. See, Joseph's options were limited and time was not on his side. He couldn't take her as his wife, as it seemed obvious she'd been unfaithful to him, and in that day you simply wouldn't do that. But as a man of apparent honor, neither would he risk exposing her publicly, as she could have been stoned to death as an adulteress. Yes, the treatment of women then could be brutal. But it is the background of the story and helps us understand Joseph's choices. With no good options, he decides on the least bad option he could think of. Divorce her, but quietly, so as not to put her at risk. That's when the angel of the Lord appears in a dream and provides a critical piece of information that he could not have known, and a piece of instruction that would never have occurred to him. The child in her was not the result of an adulterous affair, but the result of a miraculous encounter. His bride-to-be had conceived, as we say, by the power of the Holy Spirit. Now, many in the modern world have had a hard time believing in the idea of virgin birth, but this isn't really about biology, is it? It's about God's providential care, about God's providing the promised blessing through the descendants of Abraham, the promise of blessing to the world. Me, I don't spend a lot of time obsessing about whether ancient miracles make sense to modern sensibilities. It's kind of beside the point. And the point is what God is up to here. Now, the last thing to notice is the same thing as when we saw what Jacob did after his dream of the ladder to heaven and what Solomon did after his dream in which God granted him wisdom. In both of those cases, they woke from sleep and responded to God. The same thing happens here. Here's what we read at the very end of this part of the story. When Joseph awoke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took her as his wife, but had no marital relations with her until she had borne a son, and he named him Jesus. He wakes up. He believes what he has heard, and he responds in faith and in faithfulness to what God has revealed and what God has commanded. That's a dream. Tomorrow, a dream helps keep the infant alive. But for now, may God continue to bless and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.